Right. Hello, a lovely group that we can see all in the gallery. Welcome to Storytime 26. Am I saying the right numbers?
That's a lot of stories.
Yeah. So we've got some dress-ups going on and some props and things. Timon's household, do you want to tell us about what you've got there? Is it a bit of an Armageddon theme?
Yes.
Appropriate to the current time?
I'm a chaos controller.
You're a chaos controller, okay.
And I'm dangerous and part of the problem.
You're red.
I've got kind of fiery colours and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, I have a costume. Hang on.
I want to know what that yellow box says.
It's a very special yellow box indeed.
It's a very special tea.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you know in Tea Pokey, you may or may not have heard our tea song. In one of the verses it says, in case of Armageddon, steep some green for 30 seconds. So when we made up the song, one of the members of my dance class gifted me this very special chest that says in case of Armageddon, and inside was some gunpowder green tea with peppermint oil, which was extremely stimulating and high caffeine and highly suitable, I think, for Armageddon indeed.
Lucky you have it for this exact scenario.
Yes, precisely.
Yes,
and
perfect.
For those who aren't aware, Darjeeling would actually make a very good Armageddon tea in that sense. It is actually very high caffeine. For those of us who
I like the scientist, Emily.
Yes, I thought this is a good costume for safety.
Safety,
yes.
Yep.
Got your safety glasses?
Got my safety glasses and my safety lab coat.
Yep.
Very good.
Perfect.
Keep everything clean and tidy.
Perfect.
It's like the scientist out of the pandemic game.
Pandemic game.
Yeah.
So our topics this month were inappropriate metal screaming. When you're trying not to do something or think of something and therefore can't stop thinking about it. Aphantasia and other skills or abilities you might not realize other people have if you lack them. How to keep warm. The equinox or Easter and treasure hunts. Personal best or first times. Pot plant obsession. Prepping. Postponements and cancellations. And past its use-by date. Now, there were a few others, which in the end I've managed to include some of them, but only very briefly, so I'm not going to list them as being topics of this story as such, but you might spot them. So, I have a little poem about treasure hunts to read. Tiptoe at a dash like a small ballet dancer over the dewy grass. Eyes darting here and there for hollows, nooks, or overgrown weedy forests, watching for that magic glimpse of colour or of shine to give away the presence of a hidden prize. See others rush for a certain spot. What delight have they found? Turn quickly, looking for your own something hidden, not to be outdone. Turn a clue around and around inside your mind. Then, a flash, you have it. Yes, there where you'd hoped, a glinting shine. Just be sure not to grab the neighbour's garden gnome, and don't let out the dog until your quest for treasure's done. Fill up a special basket, for this purpose just prepared, and every day thereafter check, just in case you missed one.
Beautiful.
So with today's story, there's something to do with the metal screaming. There will be times in it when I attempt to imitate metal screaming. Since I have not actually, in fact, learned this skill, my attempts will be fairly tentative because I don't want to lose my voice halfway through. So by the time we get to the end, you might have worked out what's going to happen. And if you have, there'll be an opportunity potentially for some audience participation. Perhaps you can help me out a little bit with the ending for the story. So the story is called, In the Case of Armageddon, Try not to think about metal screaming. I still think we should bring some of my pot plant collection along as decoration, Florrie was declaring. They could act as markers for the general area where we're having the party, so people don't just wander off. Ella was not listening to Florrie as such, but was unavoidably hearing the sound of her voice over the tones of the boppy indie folk pop band she was considering for the event. Shh, she told Florrie, squeezing the headphones on tighter. I can't tune you out, and your talking is making it impossible to decide about this music. Florrie rolled her eyes. Florrie was a friend who'd remained a part of Ella's life after high school, purely because she too had gone on to university, and in the early weeks of first semester had sought Ella out for the comfort of familiarity during her breaks. Florrie was all right, but she could be rather too talkative and loud for Ella's liking when she got excited about something. In this case, the source of the excitement was Ella's 21st birthday. Ella had been very clear that there would be no clubs with their absurd remixes of good songs, crowd chatter, breaking glass, toilet sounds, smokers and vomiters. She'd seen people dancing at a club in something she watched on TV, and that was quite enough to know it was not a place she ever wanted to be. Even in the show, Ella had struggled to separate what the characters were shouting at each other from the booming, unbalanced bass, the roar of voices, and the DJ banter. But Florrie had materialised somehow back into Ella's day-to-day life as her birthday approached, and insisted that the occasion must be celebrated, for fear of depriving their school social circles of the chance for a reunion. And Ella found that her enthusiasm for a unique party was gradually rising. You're still very rude, Ella, Florrie told her, putting her nose right up close to Ella's and screwing it up. You shouldn't tell people you're trying to tune them out, you know. Most people won't understand. Ella, who had given up on evaluating the music and set the headphones aside, ignored this. It will need to be a quite structured event, she announced quietly, as if to herself. I'll be working up the courage to invite Bryn along, and it will be her first time meeting a lot of our school crowd and the family, so I don't want it to get awkward. I sort of feel like it could be weird introducing her to Violet. Duh, Florrie replied. And it's Vin, you know that. There you go, being rude again. Ella sighed. Bryn and Vin rhyme and it's weird, she muttered. Then more brightly, so what can we do at the park that will be fun and keep everybody busy and working together? Florrie paused, then got way too close again and grabbed Ella by the shoulders. A treasure hunt, she said, in a voice far more dramatic than the occasion called for. Ella firmly removed Florrie's hands from her shoulders, but she grinned. That's actually a brilliant idea, Florrie. Florrie bounced back in her computer chair so that it scooted backwards across the room. Hey, that's better. Much less rude. Treasure hunts were wonderful. Perhaps it was because they connected with an ancient need to forage and find the best treasures to bring back to the tribe. Or perhaps it was the satisfaction of solving puzzles in a real space, the tentative teamwork or the sense of magic when special items appeared in places they normally wouldn't be found. Maybe it was just fun finding shiny, colourful objects. But something about looking for things for fun, moving around a space together, yet each separately searching, seemed to appeal to all ages. It was perfect. They could hunt for treasures, bring them back, and contribute to a group decoration or treasure chest, pick out things to keep, and picnic on birthday cake and treasure snacks while they listened to some music. It was even appropriate to the current seasonal festivities. It would probably be possible to get Easter eggs soon and use some for the hunt. When's the spring equinox? Ella wondered aloud. The next equinox is on March 21st, Florrie replied immediately. But we're in Australia, so it isn't the spring equinox, it's the autumn one, or Mabon. You knew that fast, Ella said, impressed. Yeah, answered Florrie, lifting Ella's dad's tiny cactus up off the desk as if to look it in the eye. I've been looking it up. I'm thinking of becoming a proper druid. This will be my first Mabon. She gave the cactus a careful pat. Can I have this? The idea of holding a 21st celebration on the 21st of the month rather appealed to Ella, and the fact that it was indeed autumn did not discourage her in the slightest from deciding to make the event spring-themed. We've got to start prepping, she told her brother Carter. I'll need to collect a lot of small things that can be treasure, and picnic rugs and party food and green envelopes, and we can fold some paper flowers to hang up in trees and stuff. That's a lot of stuff, Ella, said Carter. Sounds more like you're preparing for doomsday. Ella set about these preparations, however, with gusto, and walled off a corner of her bedroom with cardboard boxes full of useful bits and pieces. She spent her weekends writing Ella's 21st on the 21st in curly leafy green writing on various kinds of card and paper. The one thing that was missing, she felt, was some bits of poetry about nature and the seasons. There was one person who would definitely know some. Vin was getting very into her poetry lately. Ella texted her. Hey, Lady Lighthouse, I'm going to have a spring-themed treasure hunt 21st on the 21st. I need some spring or seasons-themed poems to write on invitations and put on decorations and that. Got any? Vin didn't text back for a while, so Ella got distracted reorganising her stockpile of party goods and playing with a wonderful little green ceramic ocarina Bryn had given her for Valentine's Day, and affixing a special device made out of a ruler and hair ties to her blind to stop it tapping in the wind. Later that evening, after she'd written the header onto 10 more pieces of paper, Ella checked her phone. The return text from Vin said, Well, that makes no sense. Ella glowered. What do you mean? She wrote back. After a few minutes, Vin replied, The 21st is a Wednesday. Look in your calendar before you pick a date for a thing, Yalumbu. Oh no, Vin was right. Ella knew it wouldn't in any way compensate for her error if she wrote back with an objection to Vin's out-of-context use of lumbu. She texted Florrie with the bad news and discussed the 24th as the next best thing. Meanwhile, Ella's brother Carter, back in his new flat in the city, checked his email and was surprised to find a message from Vin. The subject line said, Top secret, do not show Ella. This struck Carter as pretty silly, because if Ella spotted this on his phone or laptop when he was visiting Mum and Dad, she would definitely get into it before anyone could stop her. Vin should know better. He sat down on a giant box of party balloons and sparklers he'd got for Ella and read, Hey Carter, I have an idea for a hilarious prank. You're probably not aware, but I've recently become a bit of a metalhead. I was thinking I could recruit some friends and we can do a surprise Screamo flash mob at this party of Ella's. I remember you having some pretty heavy music you'd put on if Ella was out, so I was wondering if you'd be in. Let me know, Vin. Carter drew in a deep breath and sighed it out so that he blew a raspberry. On the one hand, it was true that he quite liked heavy music, and a screaming flash mob would be hilarious. On the other, he was pretty sure Ella would hate it and freak out. It was her 21st, so that would be pretty awful. He hit reply. Vin, you know she's gonna hate it. We shouldn't. Stop being evil. Cheers, Carter. It was mere minutes before a reply popped up. You're thinking about it now. Just imagine. Haha, Vin. Carter sighed and closed his laptop firmly. He wouldn't think about it. Florrie and Ella had arranged to go down to the park after uni on Friday and check the feasibility of using it as a treasure hunting ground. It was a hot afternoon, and Florrie caused some delay by insisting they go back to her place first so that she could water her pot plants. Ella loved Florrie's plant collection. It was always quiet and damp and fresh in amongst them, and some had an interesting rubbery texture to the leaves that made an interesting sound when rubbed or picked. On the way to her place, Florrie made Ella pull over because there was a very bright, variegated climbing geranium in someone's hedge. She stealthily hopped out of the passenger seat, sidled over to the hedge, and surreptitiously picked a piece of the plant, stowing it quickly in her excellent pocketed dress. "Now I know how you have so many plants," Ella exclaimed when Florrie got back in. "You don't buy any, you just pull for cuttings." Florrie looked as offended as it's possible to look when something is clearly true. "So rude," she muttered. Carter was showering and trying hard not to think about metal screaming. An image was slowly building in his mind of a crowd in party hats holding sparklers and screaming "Happy birthday to you." He wondered how well soundproofed his new flat was. Carter knew quite a lot of metal songs, but being currently a little on the sleepy side, the only bit of screaming that came to mind was, "I can't wake up! Save me!" "Oi!" came a voice from upstairs. "Shut up!" Carter supposed that answered his question about the soundproofing. It was definitely best to avoid thinking about it. It wasn't as though he'd be able to practice. He dropped the soap and fell to sliming about on the shower floor, trying to retrieve it. Ella and Florrie, back in the car, were stuck behind a traffic barricade. "Park closed for LARPing festival," said a big light-up sign. A parking inspector was blocking the way into the car park and checking tickets. "Oh, great. I guess not today then," sighed Ella. "We'll have to come and check it out another time." She did her best to turn around and leave, incurring swearing from the drivers behind them on the road. "Driving like a lumbu," said Florrie, who'd spent a lot of time around Ella's family during high school. "Hey," snapped Ella, making it out with a 5-point turn. "That was definitely a personal best for smallest number of reverses." Back at Ella's, they decided to attempt some planning anyway. "I haven't really been to that park a lot," Ella reflected. "Have you?" "Yeah, loads," said Florrie. "I used to hang out there with the scouts all the time." "Oh, great." Ella went and stole some paper from her parents' printer. "You can help me map it out then." She gave Florrie a pencil. Florrie took the pencil and frowned. It's tricky without seeing it. It has a toilet block and a playground and a sort of maze of roses, so those might be spots you could use in the treasure hunt." Ella closed her eyes for a moment. "Meditating on it?" joked Florrie. "No, I'm trying to picture what sort of shape the park is." Florrie frowned. "Oh, okay." She said it as one might to someone who's just claimed to see ghosts. Then she grabbed her phone. "Let's look on Google Maps." Ella shrugged. She couldn't see why that was really necessary, but it wouldn't hurt. Florrie went into satellite view and zoomed in to show that the park was an odd sort of green trapezoid between roads that weren't quite parallel. 2 structures could be seen in the satellite image. "Which one's the toilet block?" asked Ella. "I'm not sure," Florrie shrugged. "But you said you went there a lot. Where did you meet the other scouts?" "By the playground." Ella peered at the map. "Okay, well that looks like the playground just there." She indicated a less green bit. "If you were at the playground, facing the car park, what was the building on the right?" I don't know, said Florrie exasperatedly. Maybe the toilets, because I often went to the toilet on my way in. Ella frowned at her. Well, what did the two structures look like from the ground? I don't know, said Florrie again. Do you even remember the park at all? Sighed Ella in frustration. Yeah. The street on your side is called Halton Avenue. The gas barbecue used to cost 20 cents, but you had to put it in 10-cent pieces. Toilets run out of toilet paper a lot, so you should bring your own. It smells like pine trees if it's hot. It takes about 15 minutes to walk there from the shops, and sometimes the pine trees drop pine nuts, which are actually delicious. I got my first rosemary cutting from the hedge there, and one time a knook fell off the roundabout and broke his finger. Ella shook her head. If you remember all that, how come you can't picture where stuff is? What do you mean? Florrie asked. Well, like, imagine you're back there and see what it looks like. The toilet block would have brick walls maybe, but the other structure might be an open barbecue shelter or something. They must look pretty different. Florrie seemed to think very hard about it. I know they looked different, but if you're saying, like, see how they look in my head, I can't. I thought that was like a movie thing. Ella blinked. She swiveled Florrie's chair around so that they sat face to face. So, if you look at me right now and then close your eyes, Florrie did so, confused. Can you imagine what my face looks like without opening your eyes again? Florrie shook her head. Not really. I mean, I can say you have certain colouring and stuff, but that's just facts I know. Wow, said Ella, seeming quite excited. You have aphantasia. I never knew I knew someone with that. I have what? Florrie pulled her face. Surely Ella was suffering from a form of medical student's disease. You can't make pictures in your head, Ella elaborated, in the same sort of way that I can't not hear sounds. When I remember, it can be just like watching a movie. So if I was remembering being in the park, I could just look from the playground to the toilet block. But you can't actually imagine looking at the park and see it. Florrie stared at her. You can see stuff in your head? Ella nodded. This is like that time Carter told me he could choose to only hear the bass guitar in a song, isn't it? Florrie nodded slowly, looking a bit stunned. Sounds like witchery to me. Like when psychics say they see things from the future. How do you know about this anyway? Ella looked a bit sheepish. Well, when you look up differences in how brains work, it's very easy to disappear down a fascinating rabbit hole, she explained. I know about a lot of these sorts of things, trust me. Florrie glanced down at their map, a rough pencil trapezoid on a piece of A4 paper, and sniggered. Ella looked and laughed too. I guess we can only guess from that satellite image. Carter was returning from a trip to the local party shop at this moment and stood waiting for the pedestrian crossing. Somehow, in his mind, forbidden to think of metal screaming. He had begun to suggest what nursery rhymes, carols, and children's songs might sound like if they were screamed. Baby shark! Do, 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 do. He burst out experimentally, then hid quickly inside his hoodie as a family with two small children coming out of the shops rapidly changed direction to avoid him. Luckily, the crossing changed just then, and Carter hurried away down another street. He leaned against a stack of old tyres on the footpath, got out his phone, and opened a private message to Vin on social media. Can't stop thinking about metal screaming, he typed, resigned. I guess I'm in. Vin messaged him back with a laughing emoji. Ha, gotcha. Carter worried briefly that the entire plot was a hoax, but then she added, I'm sending around some stuff to learn tomorrow. Did she decide to go with the 24th? Carter now sighed with relief. Yes, he replied, at the park on Holton Avenue. As he finished typing, a man appeared in the driveway and yelled, "Get away from my tyre stash, you pilferer!" And Carter hurriedly headed home. That evening, the night air was rent by deep, growling thunderclaps, and so much rain fell that the slight valley where the park sat was under 2 inches of water, the grass looking like seaweed the next day. The council cordoned off the area and brought in various special equipment to try to drain the water. "That's autumn for you," said Becca, Ella's mum. "Hopefully it clears up by the 24th. She pulled up the long-range forecast on her phone. "Oh dear, Ella." "What?" Ella demanded. "Is it going to keep raining?" "No," Becca sighed. "It's going to be 39 degrees.
Oh.
"Oh no," exclaimed Florrie, who had come to dinner to do more prep. "I can't take my pot plants out in that, or leave them at home without anyone to water them and put on the aircon. All the treats will melt and there'll be awful buzzing flies," lamented Ella. "Perhaps we should postpone until the 31st. On the 24th of March, a small group of black-clad individuals, many missing from their number, assembled at the park, feeling far too warm, and looked around them annoyed. "Carter," Vin snapped, "have you missed some vital information?" Carter hung his head. "I forgot to check my texts," he mumbled. Suddenly Vin looked at Carter closely. "Hey, Carter has glasses." "Yeah," Carter sighed. "Got them this morning. Trees have leaves. Have you always been able to see the leaves?" "Should we practice?" someone interrupted. Vin sighed. "I guess we might as well before we all melt. Let's do the poem first." Everyone took a collective breath. "These poles out thin forests still reflect." "Excuse me," came the quavery voice of an elderly lady none of them had spotted on the playground bench. "Could you please be quiet? I'm just trying to spot a blue wren." Everybody stopped and shuffled their feet dubiously. "Sorry," said Vin. "Could you be a dear and get my drink bottle from my trolley?" the old woman asked. "Carter," complained one of the metalheads, "this Swiss roll cake is past its use-by date." On the 31st, Ella woke to a perfect, still autumn morning. She grinned and leapt out of bed to begin ferrying her stockpile of decorations, junk food, blankets, and treasure to the car. It was quite chilly in the morning air, and Ella felt a tug of concern about how to keep everyone warm. She fetched some spare blankets, her quilt, and a variety of coats from around the house. Becca smiled from the kitchen, spreading icing on a cake, and flicked on the radio. "Police advise residents of the Tearsview area to stay indoors and not to open the door to any callers until further notice," the radio announced. Ella stopped halfway across the lounge room, holding a packet of toilet paper. "What?" she spluttered. "But my treasure hunt!" "Never mind, Ella," said Bryn on the video call that afternoon. "We'll hold the treasure hunt in a few weeks' time when all this is blown over. At least I still kind of got to meet everyone." "I need chips," Ella replied. "Don't do an Ella and Carter marshmallow job on them in the oven," Vin said, smirking. "What?" asked Bryn. "We like to set marshmallows on fire," Ella explained, annoyed with Vin for using an in-joke. Carter, who had come over the night before, appeared in the background of Ella's picture. "I'm afraid all the party food we got when we were prepping is past its use-by date." "Ah!" yelled Ella. Vin tried to catch Carter's eye, which was difficult via webcam. Carter surreptitiously shook his head. Next time you're prepping, remember non-perishables are the essentials, said Kev, Ella's dad, sarcastically. Florrie joined the call, magnificently surrounded by all of her pot plants, and several other friends from school popped up on screen and looked confused while they worked out how to switch on the sound. I'm glad we get to say happy birthday this way, said Anoop from school. That weird singing toilet at the park scares me. Singing toilet, said Ella. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that, Florrie mumbled. The toilet there is a bit technological. Not as technological as this, Auntie Maddie said, pointing at her headset. Definite personal best, beamed Becca, giving her a thumbs up. Speaking of personal bests, Bryn broke in, I've written you a bit of a violin tune I'm kind of proud of, but I'll send it to you so you can listen with better quality sound, okay? Ella looked calm and pleased for the first moment since the news of the food being out of date. Vin made an ooh face and said, size 14, and disappeared off screen. Everyone looked confused. Ella rolled her eyes. It means time out from, like, high school, she translated. Oh, said Kev, as if understanding something for the first time. Carter took a breath and dropped into a chair right by the webcam. Hey, here's a question for you sound-appreciating folks, he said. How much is too much reverb? Ella pondered. Well, it's mostly great, as long as it doesn't get to so much the notes run into each other, she began, trying to explain her perception in a way that didn't sound amateur to Bryn. Vin sidled back into shot, and Carter whispered in Becca's ear and surreptitiously raised his hand in the Universal Metalhead's horn gesture to Vin. Becca disappeared and returned after a few moments with the candles lit on Ella's cake. Well, said Carter, we can at least try to do happy birthday, reverb or no. No, people, it won't be able to sync, began Bryn, but it was too late. All together now, bellowed Vin.
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear someone! Happy birthday to you!
When the extremely out of time screams had faded away, and Bryn was looking suitably shocked, everyone looked at Ella, who to their great surprise did not have her hands over her ears. Personal best, said Florrie, winking. That, said Ella calmly, that was too much reverb. Any requests from those of you who are already back?
Well, I reckon, kind of a sideline of this, the writing challenge.
Yeah.
Just notice which things actually some of them came up in the story tonight, but quite a lot of them have had, really huge responses, haven't they?
Yeah. And it's really interesting the variety of things that the prompts bring to mind.
Yeah, so some of those topics might be really good to kind of pull in.
Yeah,
but
like
also,
topics, some of the prompts we've had in Passion Words into Storytime. Yeah.
But
so
also,
on that note, thank you all for all of you who are joining in with that, because it's been really, really nice to share writing a bit both ways.
I agree. It's excellent.
It's been lovely, hasn't it? And something Claire and I had a little exchange today about the variety, and I think that could come into the story time, like the different interpretations people place on things, and and that can be absolutely wonderful. Like you go, I didn't even nothing like that occurred to me.
Yeah.
similar thing prompting you. And, how misunderstandings can happen that way. Like we assume this wonderful thing about language that it communicates highly effectively, which of course it does, but it also, is open to, misinterpretation.
I'll talk to your dog, but not to you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the literal meaning of that is fairly rude, Dad. So.
It's rude, yeah. But I was speaking for my dog to the other person's dog.
Mark and Margaret would understand. Tell the story, love.
I was just walking along the beach, and our dog was being friendly with the other dog, I think, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it wouldn't talk to me.
The dog didn't want a pat from Barry.
A pat from me. So, I just said, I'll talk to your dog, but not to you, type thing.
He was being the voice of the dog.
Yes.
Yeah. That was being a snobby dog. But
And
the
the
owner looked quite offended.
Yeah.
That would definitely happen to me. I do the voice of animals all the time, and it does occasionally confuse
But you
people.
do like a special voice for the animal.
Oh, true. You do a sort of a like
a different.
yeah, sometimes. Although, if you weren't a person who knew that anyone might try to talk as an animal, it could still be very confusing.
Yeah.
Perhaps
Why is this person doing such a silly voice?
Yes, why are they saying something offensive in a silly voice?
Yeah.
What about
Too much Frozen, I think.
Oh.
Frozen, where the guy made the reindeer speak. Yeah, you would have had to see Frozen.
Yeah.
Sarah, can I please request that we include a choir, since that's where we were talking?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely, we can include a choir. It's a good one.
Does it have to be a people choir, Beth?
Oh, that's a good thought. See, there's one of those words. I hadn't made that connection.
Yeah.
I have a request.
Yeah.
Backyard camping and flying marshmallows.
Flying marsh.
On fire. Flying marshmallows on fire.
Oh dear. Like
That is
as
very
in
dramatic.
when you're when
It's on a
you
stick,
On fire and
and it's
I'm
on
trying
fire,
to-
and it flicks off and hits Manny in the face.
Well, it did.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Manny was under siege. Like when they put things on fire and fire them in with the catapults.
Oh, no.
Has Manny just gone out to tend his wounds, Charmaine?
Speaking of fire, I think that things that you want to burn.
Things you want to burn. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you.
It could be things you're wanting to hide or get rid of, or it could just be junk.
Ooh.
Just thinking, one of my friends has a yearly bonfire of just like everything that's like stuff on their property, old cupboards, old tax returns they don't need, and just everything goes in there. You don't know what else could be in there.
Is that different to things that you might want to see burnt?
Yes.
Yeah.
When people surprise you with their pets.
Talking of cats in weird places, I went for a walk. I went for a walk last night, and on the way home, I met someone going the other way who was pushing a stroller with a kind of netting over it, and there was a cat in it.
That's amazing.
We've met that man on the train
Yeah, we
going
have.
into Adelaide.
Well, this was a young woman.
It was a woman.
It's a different person.
It was a young woman. I thought it was a baby. She would have been the right sort of person to have a baby. But no,
Exactly what we were like.
it was a
Oh,
fluffy white cat with blue eyes.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Oh no, this was a different cat then, and this guy had, the pram with like the hood, and
Yeah.
had amazing kind of plastic arrangement with
Wow.
all these zips and stuff, and the cat was like totally chill.
Oh my god.
I have one.
Have you got a picture?
I might have.
So yeah, so I'll send it around to the groups afterwards.
I have another potential story idea, which is just based on all of that just happened there.
Yeah.
When you see like a poster for a missing pet and you think it's the pet and then you realise it is not, in fact, that pet, but another missing pet that does not yet have a poster, and you're trying to work out whose pet is it.
In the vein of that meme that's going around with the guy who lost his cat, and then he found his cat and he brought his cat home. And then his cat came
and
home.
then his cat returned.
Now he has 2 cats the same, and they're very funny cats, like these identical, fluffy, kind of fat, black and white cats.
Weird.
That's so great.
I'll send it to you later.
You could extend that out and just make it finding lost pets. Because today I found a lost quail.
Lost quail.
And I had to bring it home and then try to figure out whose quail it was, and I did figure it out, and they came to pick up their quail, but it was very funny.
How did you know it was a pet?
You don't really get wild quails.
I just thought of another one. Animals don't do social distancing because there have been such funny animals not social distancing. It's been really, really funny.
I have another one
Later.
Can I?
Yeah.
Again, it's an isolation related one, but increasingly ridiculous foods to try and make at home, or increasingly ridiculous substitutions.
Yeah.
My dad posted this great thing the other day that he saw. Mum might have seen it too. That was like, I love Jamie Oliver's advice for cooking because he gives so many examples of substitutions. I made this, aubergine something or other, and it's, baked beans on toast.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Who the hell knows what the F buttons are for on computer keyboards?
F buttons. The function keys.
All the F keys. There's
that means function.
Yeah.
On the Mac, it's okay because they put little symbols so you know what they are.
Yeah, some of mine have symbols, others don't.
No idea.
F8 and F9.
All of mine except the 7 has a symbol.
I don't have a symbol for F1, F8 or F9. They're just F11. There's mysteries.
They're not function keys. They're fun keys.
It's fun because you don't know what's going to happen. I like it.
No, I think they're what F keys because if you press Shift or Control, they change their F. So what they should be called?
WTF keys.
Yeah, what WTF keys?
WTF keys.
Yeah, maybe there should be one on the keyboard.
Yeah, a special big one with a red dot on it.
That's what they should turn. Yeah, the help key should be WTF. And then it's like, I don't know what's going on, WTF. Give you some advice.
I like it.
Or maybe that button just turns it off and on again.
Yeah.
Automatically turns it off and on again. I like that.
I need that button.
Yeah, you do.
We all do.
Sarah, I want to add one more. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't come in, but every time I walk, I see galahs. It's the crackers thing. And increasingly, I'm seeing other birds kind of gate crashing into groups of, a particular kind of bird. So you see one galah with the cockatoos, or you see, a chook from the farm next door pecking around amidst this group of galahs and so on. So kind of gate crashing animals that kind of interloping animals.
That's great.
Like when you see a herd of cows and there's one horse in there, or there's one
or a goat, and they go like, I found our people,
Yeah, I was going to say, that's it. That makes me think of the goat with the kangaroos. What was the goat's name? Gary?
Gary the goat.
Gary.
Dilemmas with chips.
Dilemmas with chips.
Chicken salt.
Sorry, someone genuinely did a PhD in cat meows, and they posted on this post about cat communication, and they're like, pick me, it's like the one time in the world I'm actually relevant. So they put this thing, and they said they're like 7 different types, and then they do that mean this, and this, and they've actually mapped it out, so it's at least there's expression in their tone of meow.
Definitely expression. And I think they get more expressive the longer they live with humans.
That makes sense.
Because when we first had Lucky and he first came home to Grandma's and he'd been a stray, he used to just make one noise. It was "ma." It was a horrible sound. There was nothing cute about it. It was a really horrible sound that he made. And now he makes all, the little and and he does like big eyes, and he makes a variety of different sounds for different things.
Have you found that with Nutmeg at all, Mum? Does she do you reckon she makes more noises now than when we found her?
Yeah, and she makes different noises at different times.
Right. Yeah, because she was stray originally. Yeah. Yep.
So do you think that they are picking up that we use like verbal language with each other, and they're trying to
I reckon it could be
similar, or are they just working out?
I think it's probably a kind of training. Yeah, that's it. I think they're figuring out, when I make this noise, the person responds this way. When I make this noise, they tend to understand that they tend to give me food. When I make this noise, they tend to look at me.
Apparently, part of it is that they will develop those little cute vocal noises to be more like a kitten, because they know that certain kind of noises appeal to us more and are more likely to get a response. So if they do the original Lucky, and people sort of go and leave the room, they sort of.
There was another cat study that explained that, and they said that cats actually don't meow to communicate with each other. They don't need to have. It's purely
they only meow to humans. Yeah.
Figure out we're a bit like stupid kittens, and so they adapted because they think we're big stupid kittens to meow to communicate.
Blair's know a lot about these cat pH.
Cat meows could be a story topic. I think I would have fun making all the different sounds that cats.
Well, you could draw that between cats, but also people, because as many of us know, making a meow sound is a very versatile phrase that can mean many things.
Yes,
it's very useful.
Just before it meant please get me fresh tea.
There you go. Exactly. It might just mean like, hello, I'm here. Yes, it could mean like,
please let me in.
I'm at the door. Yeah.
It's a common one.
Yeah, I don't know if I should really admit this to too many people, but I would, when I was living with my parents, I would frequently meow at my father. Mostly he was asking a question where I thought the answer was so obvious, it didn't actually require words to answer it.
So you know,
that's a great one. I haven't used it for that.
Like,
it's good.
How are you today? And I'm like, meow. Or are you ready for dinner? Meow. Like
obviously.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh my
good.
goodness. That's very good.
Use of
I think I also have used it for I'm too grumpy or upset to give a reasonable answer. But in like a kind of a tantrumy way where I'm just like
Well, we definitely use it as a like, I feel bad, please provide.
I feel bad, exactly.
Or, like tea or whatever.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Also that I want attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meow. When they want cups of tea from each other, isn't it?
No, it can just be attention. Or it can be, I want what you have. Simon's cat has a very specific meow for feed me that's like, Ma. And we make that noise if the other person is getting something to eat or drink and we want some.
Yes.
I just want to say a couple of things quickly. So the next date is the 9th of May. So a fairly early one for May. But possibly a little bit later, because getting ready for 7:30 was a little bit interesting this time. Other things, we mentioned the health and words thing. Lots of you are already doing that, so I don't really need to talk about it, but it's been really good. Please keep doing it, and I'm going to try and compile everyone's lovely writings into something at the end, which I'll just send to you folks who've been involved, so it won't be like a public publication or anything, but I'll send you around something if you're happy to be in it, so you can all see all the bits of writing, because lots of you are doing them in different places, so you don't see each other's necessarily. So
that'd be awesome.
It'd be nice for all the people who've been writing to see all the different writing. If you don't want to be in that, then let me know, and I obviously can leave you out. And finally, a friend of mine and I, sometime in the coming weeks, are going to be launching a virtual art exhibition. So we've been working on it turned into 11 pieces each. So there's going to be like a video premiere, which hopefully you'll all be able to watch and sort of come to the launch as it were, and have a bit of a chat with us and see that. Just thought I'd let you know about that one. I think we've got lots of good requests for next time. Looking forward to doing gate crashing animals and the use of cat meows. Is a good combination. That might be some fun. I hope you don't all go away doing inappropriate metal screaming for the rest of the week.
Well, they're definitely giving me an idea for something, though.
A good break from all
good not doing work time.
Yeah. Have a good apocalypse. Merry apocalypse.
So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Virtual.
Give it out like this.
Yeah.